Okay. Welcome to the program. Good morning, a good and godly, blessed day, and a happy new year to all of you. It's the first working day of the year, and please bear with us if there are some glitches because we're trying out a new system under the new year. We shifted from StreamYard to Zoom meeting, and okay, so it's January 3, 2022. It's a new year. We have a lot to look forward to. It's a Monday, and I start our day, our year with the daily starter, a reminder and a good motto for everyone. Let's go to our daily reminder. And our daily reminder is do one act of kindness each day of the year and change 365 lives. Of course, we already used up 2 days, so just catch up and find additional 2 more. But let this be a reminder, do one act of kindness each day of the year and change 365 lives. Okay, now from there, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. If you would, guys, let's go to today's edition. It's January 3. The headline of the Philippine Star is hospital beds, ICU occupancy rates climbing in Metro Manila. Okay, so that's the news. I guess everyone already knows that we are here in the National Capital Region. We are back to level 3, alert level 3 for COVID, and we also have news about the number of COVID-19 cases is as of yesterday, January 2, it shot up to 4,600. And for this reason, we will be speaking with Presidential Advisor on Entrepreneurship and essentially the lead man on private sector vaccination and programs and solutions, Joey Concepcion. Now, the MMDA has also called for the suspension or declared the suspension of in-person classes starting today. So the pilot testing or pilot classes for face-to-face in Metro Manila, National Capital Region is suspended, okay? The photo that you see there, of course, is once again people lining up for the MRT and the buses along EDSA. And in connection with that, the Department of Transportation has offered random antigen testing for passengers instead of cutting back the number of passengers or passenger load, because the idea was from 70% bring it back to 50 because of alert level 3. But the DOTR said, no, we would just prefer to give antigen testing. Further down in the front page, we have a bit of a bad news, but it comes with the territory. It comes with the season. There will be a hefty fuel price hike this week. Prices on diesel is expected to go up by as much as 2 pesos and 30 centavos to 2 pesos and 40, while gasoline is expected to go up by 180 to 190 per liter according to Uni Oil. Okay. And then DOH, 85% of COVID patients in ICU are unvaccinated. Ayan na po, sinabi na po yan palagi ng lahat ng kinaukulan na dapat tayo magpabakuna. We are supposed to be vaccinated, and we will discuss that as well with Joey Concepcion. The Pope, in the meantime, has said the pandemic is hard, but focus on the good. Meanwhile, the Pope, Pope Francis, of course, has called on the faithful Catholics that instead of dwelling on the depressing reality, the fearful reality of Omicron and Delta variants, focus on the good things and the good acts. Okay, MMDA eyes stricter quarantine in facilities. Okay, now this is because of the Poblacion girl or that tourist or traveler from the United States who went out of a quarantine facility and ended up creating a lot of panic, a lot of problems, and presumably has infected some of her friends. Now, firecracker injuries hit 153. Okay, so yan po, we pay for our sins, as they say, and 153 individuals were either paying for their sins, violating the firecracker ban, or were victims of the firecracker ban. Okay, that's about it for our headline front page news. Let's now go back to the main program. Let's speak with Presidential Advisor on Entrepreneurship and the gentleman who has been pushing consistently with determination for vaccination, for improvement in protocols and regulations. We have with us none other than Joey Concepcion. Joey, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cito.
Okay, happy New Year. I wish you and your group all the best, everyone in the private sector. Now, let's start up with the good news. Just before the new year, I received information from your from your people that AstraZeneca and the private sector came into an agreement for supply of vaccines for 2022 boosters.
Yes, so, well, the first batch of vaccines, which are, first of all, AstraZeneca has completed the entire 17 million delivery as of this year. And part of that will be used as boosters for the first 6 months of the year. What we are now working with AstraZeneca is the balance of 2022 from June onward. We are already in talks with the new version of their vaccine, which is now going to be boosters that will prevent, will help us against Omicron. So that will come out towards the second half of next year. So we're fully secured already with the vaccines needed to boost our employees, and some companies have already started. In fact, our own company has started. It will be starting this week.
Okay, in terms of cost, what is that going to cost the private sector? Because booster shots for January to July, we're talking of how many millions?
Well, from January to July, we're fortunate to have ordered this way before, and it's only at $5 per dose. So that's quite reasonable, and this has been paid for. On top of that, the donation that we are giving the government, they have decided to return this to us since they have enough supply. And this is additional. We have not planned for that because we have already set that aside for the government.
Mhm.
So they said that if we want to get it back, we can either donate it directly to the LGUs or use it, for our employees. So we're doing that. So we will have more than what we need, of vaccines for the first 6 months of this year. No.
Okay, so what's the plan as far as the return to sender batch of vaccines, so to speak? Do you already have a list of potential recipients? Because I've been reading up on what's been happening in the Visayas regarding the impact of Typhoon Odette. And I think it was Senator Richard Gordon who stated that while government and the Red Cross and private sector can all help out in the relief and rehabilitation, their biggest fear is that there are a lot of people out there who are unvaccinated.
Well, that's true. But, fortunately, in the private sector, those who have brought Moderna and AstraZeneca, the vaccine acceptability was way up in the 90 to 100%. So we have the data of all our employees who have taken the vaccine. And
Mhm.
those who are not taking the vaccine, remember, IDF has come out with a rule that on site workers who are not vaccinated or who continue to refuse to take the vaccine will have to take an RT-PCR test every 2 weeks. So that's a lot of testing costs that will be charged to the employee. And it's about 70,000 pesos a year. So that alone, we are going to implement that this year. Now, chances are most of our employees are already fully vaccinated. We are now moving towards the boosters. We have the names of the employees, so it's very easy. The rollout is seamless. We know we have the shared vaccination sites that are in the different malls that have been set up by the Go Negosyo team. So those things will continue. It's just now rolling out boosters. Instead of giving them 6 months from the second dose, we have requested Secretary Duque and his team to really accelerate this to much earlier, 3 to 4 months. And fortunately, the vaccine expert panel, Dr. Solante, and all of them agreed to it. And that's why we are now, I think, going to give it 3 months from the second dose. No? America is still, by the way, 6 months. No? So the Philippines has accelerated the boosters because we want to strengthen the immunity of those who have taken the vaccines. No?
Okay, there have been suggestions because I think one of the leftovers from 2021 is the issue of mandated vaccines or legislated requirement for vaccination. Now, I understand or I overheard MMDA chairman Benhar Abalos state or said in an interview that the Metro Manila mayors had a very recent meeting and the issue of vaccine mandate was raised. Are you and your group or the private sector business owners going to push members of Congress or the executive to come out with a law requiring mandatory vaccines? Because up to now, it's all been voluntary, but apparently, even globally, all over the world, there are many lawmakers and leaders who are saying it has to be mandatory or we will never put an end to this problem.
No, I agree with mandating vaccines, but Cito, the IATF implementing rules on the requiring our employees to take the vaccine through these on-site workers. Now, if they don't take the vaccine, then RT-PCR test is going to cost them 70,000 annually. So that alone is going to force many of the employees who don't want to take the vaccine to take the vaccine. Because the private sector, we defer that. We didn't want to do it in Christmas, but now that Christmas is over, we will now implement this to those who are refusing until now to take the vaccine. So that is one way of how the national government is pushing mandatory vaccines. And I think the Metro Manila mayors and the rest of the LGUs will come to realize that without strengthening the immunity of each one, either through vaccination or natural immunity, then this problem will continue to persist. No, and it will. Now you have Omicron, you'll have another one later on. So I think this is not a matter of, well, I mean, is it discriminatory? What are my rights? This is really protecting the entire Philippines, no? Every citizen out there, and including the economy, which the government, frankly speaking, cannot continue. Remember, they're the ones paying for all of these vaccines, and that's huge. And you can see the debt that is being incurred to fund all of these initiatives, from vaccines to test kits to, it's an enormous amount. And if the government will not be able to generate tax revenues because businesses will be closed or slower in its performance because of lockdowns, then our entire country and of course the private sector will be challenged, and we will not be able to sustain this war. So mandatory vaccines is something, but of course this is the political season. I mean, it's not a popular thing to really mandate, because those running for election will say that this should be done voluntarily, and I hope it could be done voluntarily. But we're at this point of really this virus never seems to be ending, no? And so we have to move towards turning this pandemic to an endemic, and that's our goal in the private sector. We called for a town hall meeting early before the end of the year, and we have one on Wednesday to call on the private sector to accelerate immediately the booster shots, no?
Oh, you mentioned the term pandemic to endemic. Is there? Do you have a concept of how to achieve this? Because this has been talked about. Even I think I first heard about it from the UK Health Minister, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and it's started to pick up here in the Philippines. What is the concept of turning the pandemic into endemic?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, DOH pointed out that most of the hospitalizations are coming from the unvaccinated, about 85%. So the goal really is to vaccinate everyone, from the children, 5 to 11, 12 to 17, the adults with vaccines. And now those vaccines will be termed as booster shots, to be done every quarter, every 4 months. So maybe you will be taking the vaccine 3 times a year now instead of just twice a year. No, so this is what we have to do: strengthen the immunity, and that this is the only way that we can move. And infection today is at 3,500. Assuming it goes to 6,000, how many percent of those 6,000 are fully vaccinated and unvaccinated? Because the ones at risk are the unvaccinated. So if we are at 80 or 90%, then we should worry about the 10 to 20% unvaccinated, who most probably will have a higher risk of entering these hospitals and getting severe infection. That is when we overwhelm the hospital capacity, and that's when lockdowns become more stringent. So that is what we're trying to do. Let's not look at the numbers and get frightened and panic if it goes up 4, 5, 8,000. America still is, despite the hundreds of thousands of cases, everything still is open. So they learn to live with it, provided that people are just getting well at home. No?
Yeah, I think that is one of the good news that's come out recently. I got a message from Bu Chanko, our fellow columnist in the Philippine Star, and they were sharing information regarding what they picked up in the US about Omicron, that it is 30% less, it creates 30% less critical infections, and that the vaccines are working. So your position is that we should go to limited quarantines. I think you have a term for that, instead of wholesale lockdown, because that, I think, is the biggest fear right now of ordinary citizens and business people, that if we have wholesale lockdowns again like 2021, we're just going to go bust. And by the way, before all you answer that, may I ask, what was the result of the opening of the economy, release, letting people out, etc., giving them more mobility? How did it affect business? Did it achieve expected goals?
Yes, so when we called that lockdown last year, early lockdown on August 8th of 2021, the result was a fantastic fourth quarter. The objective was met. No, cases went almost to zero in the fourth quarter, and that's what we wanted to see. And that's why the economy opened, and that's why there was, of course, greater mobility. Everybody went out to shop, to spend time with their families, have Christmas celebrations, and maybe that is also greater mobility has a greater chance of higher level of infection. But you have to do that because we have to live our lives and we have to learn how to live with COVID. Of course, their sales of many of the entrepreneurs have gone up tremendously. Many have hit their pre-pandemic sales. I mean, they're at least 80% of pre-pandemic sales. Many have even surpassed surpassed the previous normal sales they would have on fourth quarter. So things were very robust. All the restaurants and everybody did very well. And that, when I say well, enough cash flow to pay the 13-month pay, to pay their obligations to suppliers and banks, and that's what's needed. So, in fact, at sometime in December, we called for a town hall meeting because we want to sustain this momentum moving forward in 2022. So when we talk about lockdowns, the approach should still be granular, which is going to be done by the IATF, a granular approach on lockdowns, not massive lockdowns anymore. So that will help. The first quarter of this year, mobility will drop tremendously because everybody has spent their money for Christmas. So there'll be less eating out because everybody has already done that. So that will help. No? Of course, the alert level shift to alert level 3, which is going to bring down capacity from 80% to 50% for those areas that have a high vaccination rate. So we hope it will improve. But ultimately, Cito, we have to ramp up vaccination immediately. I mean, you will see Omicron maybe infecting more people. You can see it move very fast. What we've seen in America, it moves fast, but it is less severe. My brother-in-law got it. He just spent time at home and he got well. So many people will be able to it will be like the flu, no? So when you have the flu, we don't lock down the Philippines, no? People stay home. The only difference is that the unvaccinated will be the one that will be at the highest risk. And unless we vaccinate these people, they will overwhelm the hospitals and they could cause the worst of the lockdown. So that is what the Metro Manila mayors are trying to prevent as well. No?
Joey, are you going to ask for a meeting with the concerned departments or IATF? Because already I've seen some conflict or difference of view. For instance, like alert level 3, they're now talking about restricting 18-year-olds and below, not to allow them to go outdoors. But then that itself violates the notion of granular lockdown, as well as giving incentive to those who are vaccinated. What is your position? Because obviously rules have to be adjusted or corrected based on the new approach.
I think well, this is the first time I heard about it. But those who are fully vaccinated, 12 to 18 years, should be allowed to be more mobile, no? And especially if they're with their parents. They are under alert level 3. All these bars have been closed. No, in fact, cinemas continue to remain open, which is fine. But in the end, with all of this infection coming out, I don't think anybody's going to go to a movie theater because they'll use their common sense. No, so you will see lesser mobility. Bars will be closed, nightclubs will be closed, and all of this. So that is a hotbed for all of the youth. In fact, in abroad, the same thing happens. The bars in UK was one of the areas that these things get to start. And we've seen it also with this case of this woman who broke quarantine and they went to a bar. No? So I think the decision is correct. Now, totally restricting the movement of these kids who are fully vaccinated, I don't think that should be done. Now, for the unvaccinated, we should really restrict not only the kids, but the adults as well.
Okay. One political issue in 2021 was the refusal of mayors, in particular in Metro Manila, to come up with a defined age limit to who can go out and who must stay home. I think that that had to do with the minors going to all the minors flooding the malls. What is your group's position regarding the fact that mayors should or should not define an age limit?
I think for as long as they are all fully vaccinated and boosted, so they have to present their vaccination cards, they should be allowed entry in the malls. Like similar in the restaurants, spa, salons, they only accept, and that's what we pushed hard, fully vaccinated. Now, if they want to expand it to the malls, then that is better than totally restricting. In other words, if an 18-year-old person wants to go to the mall but fully vaccinated, and boosted, then it should be fine. I don't think we should
Okay.
restrict these movements. No?
Okay. What's your group's position regarding the push to tighten up quarantine procedures and monitoring of hotels? Because I'll be speaking with former Undersecretary Bong Benzon, who now represents the Hotel Association of the Philippines. What is the sentiment of the private sector regarding inbound OFWs and these quarantine hotels, where also who's that girl they call a poblacion girl or poblacion lady violated the quarantine?
Well, I think the hotels should be stricter in implementing these quarantine measures. I don't think we should now, because of this incident, heighten and make it longer for people. I think we, in fact, pushed it down to 3 days as a quarantine. Now it's back to 5 days. Some countries continue to allow people in, especially in America. I'll be traveling to America, and all I need is a PCR test. When I arrive, I can leave and go to my home. No? So we need to get back to our lives. No? And for now, I think with Omicron at bay, 5 days is good enough. And let's just make sure that nobody leaves the hotel during that period. And I think this could be an isolated case. And this is already a reminder to everybody that let's follow the rules. And this could affect the strategy that we've been trying to work very hard on in really trying to bring down the number of cases. No? And I think the government is going to act on that.
Okay, last question. You made a statement recently regarding how COVID cases or new cases should be reported. You made an emphasis on not focus on the big numbers, but rather on the number of critical patients. Could you elaborate on that? Because the DOH, I believe, few days ago also announced that, or a week ago announced that they would stop posting or giving public announcements on the number of cases. How do you think it be done?
I think people should know the level of infection in terms of number of cases. You can go to a website in America and you can see the number of cases in different states. So I think that should continue. But we should try to also monitor the capacities of the hospitals. No? So Go Negosyo together with Octa is going to come out with another dashboard, which will be maybe easier to understand for the rest of the public to see that level of infection and level of capacity in the hospitals. No? It is when the hospitals hit close to 100 that we become now fully alarmed because of course, we cannot afford that people will be in the streets. No? So we have to prevent that from happening. And that's why the vaccination and the booster shots have been accelerated to 3 months to strengthen the immunity. And hopefully Omicron, and I think it is possible, that Omicron might actually be the start of this ending this pandemic. If what we see in South Africa, it went up and it plunged. In Indonesia, and Father Nick, who I'm having lunch with today, we will be discussing that together with the APTA fellows on what is the way forward. No, nothing really changes from the strategy of Secretary Galvez. We already have hundreds of millions of vaccines in the country. We are full of vaccines. It is now the implementation that we really have to do. No? And I'm glad that the Metro Manila Mayor's IATF is now firmer in pushing hard the vaccine mandate. And that is important, or else we will waste these millions of vaccines. We will not provide the immunity to our people that is needed to prevent these variants from hitting us severely, especially the unvaccinated. What we should do is restrict totally the movement of the unvaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, stay home in this time of period. No?
Well, you're clearly taking a stronger position, and I suppose that is also the position of many private sector people and business owners. Thank you very much for this first interview, Joey, and I do hope that the Lord blesses the work of your hands, and we are finally able to move forward in a bigger way regarding controlling or at least managing Omicron if it ever arrives. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Cito. Thank you.
Okay, that's Presidential Advisor on Entrepreneurship, Mr. Joey Concepcion. And we now go for a quick break. And when we return, we invite former Undersecretary Bong Benzon of the Department of Tourism. He is now he has retired and taken a new job. Some really good people. You can't make them retire. They have to be useful in many things, especially with his experience. But anyway, I'll do the intro later. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and thank you for being subscribers of Cignal TV and viewers of One News PH on channels 8 and 250. And of course, thank you to PLDT for our internet service, our fiber optic internet service that is so reliable. Now, over the holidays, during the holidays, there were reports, may mga lumabas pong balita about a certain Filipino traveler, I believe coming from the United States, who arrived in the Philippines, went into quarantine, and then suddenly snuck out. Yun ang lumusot sa pintuan at nagparty. Kanya siya nabansagan ng Poblacion Girl because it was a place in Makati, popular place in Makati. And according to reports, pati sa social media, na medyo naka-infection ng marami-rami. I think out of the According to reports, 8 daw na nag-test positive. I don't know. That's still in the laboratory, so to speak. But today, we have invited a former undersecretary of the Department of Health, career guy. He retired recently, and I thought he would just, travel all over the country. Pero he decided to take on a job as executive director of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association of the Philippines. I don't think he realized that his first day at work in the new year is going to put him in the limelight or in the spotlight. Let's bring in Executive Director Bong Benzon of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. Bong, good morning.
Good morning, Cito. Happy New Year. Good to see you again. Huh?
Good to see you, and I'm glad that you didn't go into old man retirement, but rather you chose to be active. But your choice of jobs has put you in a rather peculiar predicament.
Well, I know that was really not part of the plan. I thought I was going to retire, but I'm very happy to have joined the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. So very briefly, we are a non-profit, non-stock association composed of about 300 member hotels all over the country. Mm-hmm. And basically what we do is to look after the interests of the developers, the owners, operators of hotels all over the country. And of course, when you talk about looking after the interests, it also refers to making sure that we comply with the guidelines prescribed by government authorities.
Okay, I'm sure you understand why we invited you in relation to Poblacion Girl, or this issue now of whether or not hotels should carry on being quarantine facilities, or what can be done to tighten the controls and security measures, quarantine measures in hotels. First of all, how do you actually tell, or how do we in the public know if a hotel is a quarantine hotel or not? Because I think you can understand that many of us love to be in hotels, but I definitely don't want to be in the same hotel that is actually being used as a quarantine hotel.
Correct. Well, maybe to explain, right now, all the quarantine facilities are accredited by the BOQ, the Bureau of Quarantine of the Department of Health. And there are basically three categories for such facilities. Number one, those that are used for isolation, meaning those who are confirmed. Second would be those that are used for quarantine. So this refers to those hotels accommodating arriving passengers who have to do their 5-day quarantine while waiting for their test results. And the third category would be what we call multiple use, those that are used for quarantine and for leisure, particularly for staycation. And the reason yung multiple use came about was that we wanted to help the hotels with the revenue stream. So by allowing them to accept staycation or leisure guests, then they're able to generate additional revenue. So basically, those are the three categories for such facilities. I think, Cito, it's also important to understand the working relationship of the hotels with the other government agencies concerned, particularly the BOQ and the Philippine Coast Guard. As I mentioned, the BOQ takes care of the accreditation. It also conducts random checks. And the Coast Guard is supposed to deploy their personnel in the OWA hotels, particularly. So that's basically how it works.
Okay, so there is the isolation hotel, there is the quarantine waiting for test results hotel, and there is the multiple use hotel. Now, with the multiple use, let me just clarify with you, does that mean that there are also guests who are under quarantine in multiple use? I mean, isn't that is that correct? And isn't that risky?
Well, that is correct. But I have to emphasize that the BOQ and the DOT came out with very stringent requirements, no, for a hotel to qualify as multiple use. So kailangan you
Okay.
have to have
May we know all the requirements
Yeah,
and
separate-
then the procedure?
separate entrances, separate exits, separate floors, no. So if you've been to multiple use hotels, no, here in NCR, you will notice that the guest flow for quarantine guests is different from for the guest flow for your leisure, or even for those who are dining, no, in the outlets. So yan yung mga requirements, no. The outlets have to the entrance exits have to be separate, no, preferably separate towers also. Obviously the floors have to be separate, but in the end it will be the BOQ that will determine if the hotel can operate as multiple use.
Okay, given that situation, what are the rules regarding the reception and care for quarantine visitors?
Merong ano yan, there's going to be separate movement, separate area for checking in, and then separate, in some cases, even separate elevators. No?
Yeah, kasi Bong, I hope you don't mind. Sorry to cut in because a friend of mine shared her experience in Hong Kong, and wherein they were basically, may nagsabi pa nga parang merong tracker na kinakabit sa ankle, almost like an ankle bracelet or something, which is connected to an app, to the Wi-Fi, and tells the authorities if you are within your room. And then second, the door will not open, or you're not allowed to open the door unless there is a hotel personnel or quarantine personnel checking on you directly. And then puro CCTV ang mga hallways, and absolutely no one is allowed of their rooms. Now, what is the rule in quarantine hotels in the Philippines?
Well, you're correct. No, some countries have advanced technology. You know, they have ankle trackers, no, that will determine the movement of the quarantine guests. Here in the Philippines, or in NCR particularly, the monitoring is through the CCTV and through the physical yung physical monitoring conducted by the concerned government authorities. But basically, as I mentioned earlier, itong monitoring is a collective effort among yung hotel representatives, the BOQ, and the Philippine Coast Guard. So that's basically how it works. Siguro, Cito, the other thing that I'd like to mention also is that I said that I represent yung Philippine Hotel Owners Association. In NCR, there are about 600 hotels that are accredited, no, by the Department of Tourism. Out of the 600, about 100 are members of FOA. So hindi lahat ng mga hotels dito sa Metro Manila members ng Philippine Hotel Owners Association.
Yes, medyo napatingin nga ako. I had to give you a second look when you said your members are 300 because last I remember there's something like 5,000 hotels all over the Philippines.
Correct.
So sabi ko, wow, wait a minute, small group. Baka you're representing the high-end group, am I correct?
We don't want to say that we represent the high-end group. No, we say that we represent the leading, and if I may throw it in, the leading and the responsible accommodation establishments here in the country. It's a small group. It's a tightly knit group. No, and we have about 308 members around the country. About 224 are operational, and almost 50% are here in Metro Manila.
And all of them, I presume, are either 4-star to 5-star hotels.
Well, many of them are in the 4 to 5-star category, no? But we don't make any discrimination against those that are in the other categories.
Okay, what has been the reaction of your members after this, I have to call it a fiasco or, failure on the part of a particular hotel or a quarantine facility to implement the rules? What are your members saying now as far as quarantine hotels go and what should be done?
Well, maybe before I go into the effect, no, of this escapee, no,
No.
Maybe I can share with you the performance of the hotels when NCR was de-escalated from alert level 3 to alert level 2. And this was something that many of the hotels have been waiting for many months.
Mhm.
As the PA Joey mentioned earlier, the business group decided to really tighten the restrictions in the third quarter because we wanted to save the fourth quarter. And it actually happened. The rooms were filled up. The hotels were full of families, moving around. I think we have to understand that December traditionally is a peak period for tourism and the hotel industries. And the fact that many people have not been able to move around created that pent-up demand, for staycation, for dining out. And we saw it during the first practically for the whole month of December, the hotels were doing very good occupancy and the outlets were all doing well. Unfortunately, we had this incident which may or may not have contributed to the return of Metro Manila to alert level 3. So with the return to alert level 3, the revenue streams of the hotels will be affected, particularly with respect to indoor dining services, which will now be reduced from 50% capacity to 30%, and also for the social events, the parties, weddings, etc., whose capacity will also be reduced from 50% to 30%. So clearly, you will see a reduction in the revenue stream of the hotels. But we're confident that we will be able to go back to alert level 2 and go back to the operating capacity that will make it more viable for our hotel owners and developers.
Well, now that you're talking about how the hotels were doing during the last quarter, I'm kind of wondering because we are simply responding to the situation outside or in general where COVID cases go up. If they hit the certain number, we go to a certain alert level. And if we go to a certain alert level, then all of you guys who are running business go from 70 down to 50, down to 30. But what about the proposal in the past that we can very well do antigen? Some people can even do RT-PCR few hours before a particular event and present these things. What happened to, and then of course the protocol of social distancing, why has that option not been allowed or exercised for the hotel associations?
Well, that's the decision that has to be made by the authorities, particularly the IATF. But I think people also have to understand that when you look at the hotels, we're practically operating under a bubble already. We have been doing so for the last several months. And I say this because the vaccination rate of our hotel workers is in the 95 to 100%. We were among the first sectors to reach that kind of vaccination rate. So you can be assured of a safe, enjoyable, comfortable stay when you check in our hotel. So the challenge here now is to make sure that those who are checking in the hotels, not only here in NCR, but around the country, are also vaccinated. And the way to do this is, of course, support the vaccination drive of the government. Now, you talked about antigen. Yes, we were doing this for a while, doing antigen tests for those who are checking in. But eventually, what we want is to get into a situation wherein everybody will simply have to show their vaccination cards, and they're allowed to check in our facilities. Again, I emphasize that the vaccination rate of our hotel workers is at 95 to 100%. So the entire customer journey across all critical touch points in the hotel will make sure that you're safe.
Well, Bong, if you open the door of the bird cage and the birds fly, it is practically impossible to get them to come back. So what about in the hotel business? I mean, you guys have finally experienced some hope, some profitability, or at least, being able to operate under normal circumstance. Can we expect that the hotel association or hotel owners in the Philippines will take a more determined, stronger position on being allowed to run their business safely and medically, correct, without having to be hampered by 30% rule, 50% rule, etc.
Well, certainly that's one track that we would like to pursue. We would like to have a greater say in how we manage our operations, because the assurance has always been there. Now, I have to mention that apart from the very high vaccination rate, the last several months we've spent really training our people on basic occupational safety and health, or BOSH as we call it. Okay? So across different levels in the hotels, we've been doing BOSH trainings for the last several months. We've also been doing, in conjunction with the Department of Health and the Department of Labor, a wide range of seminars, let's say, on ventilation guidelines, on how to handle customers under a pandemic, etc. The idea here really is to make sure that all our workers, particularly the frontliners, are equipped with the skills to handle the requirements of customers under the new normal. Remember, the customer behavior and expectations are all changing under the new normal. So it puts an even greater pressure on the hotel workers to make sure that we're able to satisfy their requirements. And first and foremost is to make sure that we give them that confidence that once they step in our hotel, they will be safe, and that they can have an enjoyable stay with their families and their friends.
Has the hotel association, or in general, have hotels undertaken a study, a survey of their clients who have stayed with them, who have dined in their outlets, in their facilities, and track them to find out the safety level? Kasi parang, kung mapakita ninyo, if you can show the government, gentlemen, our track record speaks for itself. In our operation, no one has gotten infected. No one has gotten sick. We've not had an outbreak. I think that is the evidence of proof of performance.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned it, Cito, because that has been the centerpiece of our discussions when we talk about convincing the authorities of how responsible the hotels have been in ensuring that safety protocols are followed. And while there has been no formal study to that effect, we've conducted a number of surveys among our members, which will point to that direction, that there actually has not been any case of outbreak in our hotels. Compliance rate has been very, very high. Like I said, the safety and health protocols are strictly adhered to, and this is something that we will commit to follow. The Philippine Hotel Owners Association will continue to strictly abide by the guidelines issued by our authorities, particularly the IATF, the DOT, and the DOH.
Okay, is your organization going to, or have you issued merit badges or stars? Because, DTI has the seal of good housekeeping. What about the Philippine Hotel Owners Association? Because if you've got 300 members, I need to know, aside from, alam mo naman, hindi ako techie, Jurassic ako, I don't go to, my iPad except to work. Are there seals or symbols that will tell a customer, oy, ito member to ng Philippine Hotel Owners Association and we're safe here?
The badge of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association does not appear in the establishment. What appears is the safety seal, which means that that particular establishment has satisfied the requirements for health and safety protocols, and this is issued by the DTI in conjunction with the DOT.
Okay, well, so going full circle, let's go back to this issue of Poblacion Girl, guests sneaking out of quarantine facility. Well, we've only had maybe, I think, 3 incidents in the last year and a half. What are you guys planning to do about this? Or is there an industry push na, teka, bago tayo ang putukan, higpitan na?
Well, totoo yan, no? Kailangan higpitan na. This will require really a collective effort, no? Not only among the tourism stakeholders, no? But also an appeal to the general public na, you know, you have to follow the quarantine period. No? 5 days, 5 days, no? We cannot skip that quarantine if we really want to move forward. No? Remember, tourism has been critically impacted, no? Maybe more than any other industry, more than any other sector by the pandemic. And we're starting to see signs of recovery. You know, December was a very good month for us, as I mentioned. Room occupancy was up, you know, restaurant revenue was up. And it's really incumbent upon all to make sure that we support the efforts of authorities, no, when it comes to all these guidelines. But yes, there will certainly be a reminder to all our members to strictly follow the guidelines, and there has to be an appeal also to all arriving guests to follow the protocols.
Okay, are you guys going to adopt any high-tech gear to monitor just like they do in Hong Kong?
Well, the hotels will probably have to enhance, no, their CCTV system.
Like in hotels ba, in quarantine hotels ba, do you have like the hospital band?
Wala pa kaming alam na ganun, but I know what you're referring to because they have this in, you're correct, they have this in Hong Kong, they have it in Singapore. The ankle tracker is something that is used in many parts of the world now.
Okay, no, but yung hospital band lang, Bong, pag nag-check-in ba sa quarantine hotel, I mean, I don't know, I might be barking up the wrong tree. How many members do you have that are actually multi-use or quarantine? Baka, wala naman ako nadinig na 4-star or 5-star na quarantine eh.
Meron we have about 89 of our members in NCR are operating both for quarantine and multiple use.
Okay. Doon pala nagpunta yung isang kilala kong motoring executive. Kasi sabi ko mukhang 5-star yung quarantine hotel nitong maman to.
Yeah.
So there are.
Yes. We have, like I said, 89 in NCR.
Okay. When they check into those member hotels, meron bang yung hospital band lang? Not the tracker. But yung pag, oy, sandali, ba't ka nandito sa Chinese restaurant? Bawal ka dito ah.
Yung hindi ko alam yung hospital ban, no? I've never I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I know what you refer to, no? Pag check-in, di ba?
Pag na-hospital ka, nilalagyan ka ng billing para alam nilang pasyente ka.
Pag tapos ka na doon sa quarantine, pwede ka nang maybe some of them are doing it. I'm not quite sure about that. But I think the fundamental monitoring ought to be yun doon sa to the CCTV and the personnel, government personnel who is deployed in the hotel.
Okay, well, we're down to our last 3 minutes, so I'll give you a chance. Any announcements or good news from the Philippine Hospital Owners Association?
Hotel. Philippine
Ay,
Hotel.
sorry. Sorry.
Oo nga, tapos kanina sabi mo, Department of Health ako eh. Department of Tourism.
Sorry. Wala na, nahihilo na ako.
No, well, on behalf of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association, of course, thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of our insights. 2022 will be a turnaround year. It will take some time before the industry fully recovers. No? But as many have said, we're seeing signs of recovery. Many would like to think that we've bottomed out in 2021. And what's going to be crucial in the recovery in the next several months would really be to make sure that we are able to contain the number of cases. Because the opening of the economy and the de-escalation from level 3 to level 2 and hopefully to level 1 will really depend on how we're able to contain the number of cases. Metro Manila will continue to be the heart of tourism activities. Most of the hotels are concentrated here. And we are committed to help our member hotels get back on their feet. And this will require really a lot of cooperation with the concerned government agencies. In particular, I'll say it again, the Department of Tourism, the Department of Health, particularly the Bureau of Quarantine.
Okay, well, we wish you all the best at the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. And I wish you all the best at your work and congratulations, Bong.
Thank you, Cito. Happy New Year.
Okay, that's Executive Director Bong Benzon of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. Pasensya na po kayo kay Cito. Medyo kinakalawang after going on a break. And now let's go to our blessing, closing blessing for the day. Para tayo nagmimisa no? But let's go to that blessing if we can, Roy. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. I leave you with that reminder that we are here first to do God's purpose, and that in doing so, when God points us in a direction, He gives us provision. May you be blessed beginning this first working day of 2022. I'm Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us here on Agenda, and please keep it here on One News PH.